Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm your host, Alex Harriman. This is my co-host, Jerrika and Alex, and we are the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thanks for listening.
Hey, well, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. What's new?
Something cool happened today. So I know this is probably fairly regular to you. I mean, I remember growing up in the north, it wasn't that unusual, but we saw a moose on our drive today. And like it was like, that's cool. I haven't seen a moose in a long time since I've been living further south in Ontario. You don't see that very often. But it was like, it's kind of cool to see those animals. Like we used to see a lot of wildlife growing up in northern Ontario, but just seeing a moose, yeah, it was like Emerson had never seen one.
That's cool.
For anybody listening that doesn't know me personally, my son Emerson, he's 3, and he was just like pretty jacked about seeing the moose.
They're amazing. They're so
Yeah.
mind-blowing.
Yeah, and it was just a young one, so it wasn't like
Okay.
nearly as massive as some are. But there's a Robert Munch book called Moose that I read to him often, and it's just funny because I'm like, yeah, buddy, it's like the moose in your book.
That's
So,
cute.
yeah, that's I thought that was cool because you see deer a lot around
Yeah.
here, but never moose anymore, like wolves or any of those really cool northern Ontario animals.
That's definitely something that I think is so amazing, but I'm also, as a trail runner, I'm very nervous about. But we saw one in the trails, a big moose the other day. It was pretty amazing.
They're just massive
They are.
creatures.
Yeah.
Absolutely massive. Especially when you're used to seeing things like deer. It's like a fraction of the size of a fully grown moose.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of bears lately too, everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah. That's another cool one to see. We used to just travel to the dumps as kids and watch the bear eating out of the dumps.
Yeah. That's funny.
So
What you got for us?
today I want to talk about sleep.
Okay.
So we've talked about recovery a bit in the past, but I think sleep probably can warrant its own episode. So that's a topic that I know a lot of people have been mentioning to me lately, and a lot of people struggle with. And I know you and I both have pretty strict sleep schedules generally.
Me too.
So I thought maybe we could just talk about sleep, the importance of sleep, and kind of some tips and tricks for the listeners that have worked well for us.
I like it.
So what does your sleep schedule look like, if you want to call it a schedule?
I would definitely call it a schedule. Sleep is a non-negotiable for me, and that's something that I think we've talked about, non-negotiables, and basically your high priority things that you usually don't compromise over. So I'm usually in bed very early. I think the first step is to look at when do you need to be waking up, and then kind of going backwards from there. So I wake up every single day at 5 a.m. I love the early morning start. No matter what I'm doing that day, I'm always up. So then I backtrack, and I personally needs 7 to 8 hours. So then I will kind of time backwards. So I'm usually in bed around 9:30, sleeping by 10 and up by 5. And that's my weekly routine. Obviously some days will flutter, but that's what I try to hold true to as much as possible.
That's awesome that you started with that. That was the exact same spot I was going to start with, like when you are building out your own sleep routine or schedule. So you have to figure out what time it is you need to wake up, and then backtrack at least 7 hours.
Yeah.
A lot of people will claim that they run optimally off 4 or 5 hours, but I guarantee if you start consistently getting 7 or 8 or 9 hours, you're going to notice a difference. That being said, it's not going to work for everybody. I know some of you guys have young kids, some of you guys, it's not at that point in your life where you're going to be able to do that. That's fine. But whatever amount of time you're prioritizing, make sure you're backtracking from the time you have to wake up.
Absolutely.
So you said you get up at 5 a.m. every day.
Yes.
What time do you typically just so people have an idea, what time would you typically need to leave your house at?
Oh geez, this isn't typical, and people are gonna think this is. I don't usually work till 10 or 11.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So that's not average. Like, but I coach classes in the morning. So like my routine is not your average routine. I have to do my workout. I do my workouts in the morning. So I'm working out. So let's say people are usually leaving for work. I'm working out by 7.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely, and I have a strange schedule as well. So
Yeah,
it doesn't work necessarily the same in that sense. But I think the importance of what I'm trying to get at there is a lot of people will leave themselves like 30 minutes to wake up, get ready, and
that's,
leave the house, right?
yeah,
Um,
that's definitely, it can affect your morning routine so much if you just give yourself some time to start your morning with a win, right? Like first thing I do is I drink water, then I'll sit and I do 10 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of meditation. And then right there has been a half an hour. So it's 5:30 and I've already gotten 3 major wins in and it's 5:30 and I'm ready to start getting ready and I could slowly, I don't feel rushed. I
mm.
think that's a big one.
Yeah, I think so. The thing with the morning is it's the only time of day that you have a clear plate. It's the only time of day that there's nothing bogging you down. You don't have people texting you and calling you and kids
Yep.
asking you to do things and your boss is asking you to do things. It's the only time of day where your plate is clear and you have full control over the day. So I know a lot of people love to start with something like a workout or meditating or whatever your morning routine might be. For me, I just need to wake up and like attack the day. So I have a list that I call my attack list, and I'll wake up and I'll have a glass of water. Also, we've talked about this a lot, so that's how I'll start with a win, and then I might do like 5 minutes of mobility. But I really to me, I really value that first, say, 30 to 90 minutes of waking up because I've got my most motivation, my most enthusiasm towards the day. So whatever's on that attack list, I'll go straight from like water, 5 minutes of mobility, and I'm literally, if I try to get up at 5:30 every day. So by 5:40, I'm jumping into that attack list. And the reason I don't choose a workout at that time is because for me, a workout is something I know I'll get done regardless. So I'll put it even later in the day if I have to. Um, but I something that might hang over my head. So I call the things on this list. I would say they're things that are important, but they're not urgent. So things that you would really love to get done, but you might not always make time for them. They always get pushed to the back. They always get pushed to the back. You say, I might do it tonight if I have some free time. When I start my day with something that falls into that category, it just sets a fire for me. Like it's so exciting for me to tackle a big project or work on a big course or make some progress on something that you would normally push off until the last minute. And that's me. I mean, like everybody definitely has to figure out what works really well for them, but that's what really excites me to wake up at 5:30 in the morning because when that alarm goes off, everything in your body is going to be telling you to hit snooze.
Yep.
Everything in your body is going to be telling you like I don't want to get up right now. And so if you don't have something that excites you to get up and get after, it makes it that much harder.
I agree. Definitely.
That's one of the things that I wanted to actually talk about today is that snooze button and is not forcing yourself to get up. Like, do you ever use the snooze button?
Uh, Rarely. I also don't keep my phone beside my bed.
Really? Yeah. That's
So
a huge challenge for a lot of people.
it's been the biggest challenge for myself as well. Yeah, so it's charging away so that you actually have to physically get up and turn off the alarm, and then by
Mm.
that point you're out of bed. So I hope that I'm not going back in and crawling. So, and then that became a routine, and even if I do happen to sleep beside, now it's just a habit, right? And that could be a really great way to start without having to need the snooze button. It's just putting your alarm clock a bit further away.
I've even encouraged people to get their phone out of the room completely
Yeah.
if it is a huge distraction for you. If you're one of those people that like scrolls social media till you fall asleep at night, wake up, look at your phone. Like I feel like that's the worst way to end your day and the worst way to start your day. If you're one of those people, go out and buy like a $10 alarm clock and use that in your room instead.
And let alone the quality of sleep that you're getting when you're looking at your phone before bed is very poor.
Mm,
Very, very poor, right? That's what we try to encourage all of our clients to try to do 15 minutes undistracted before bed. And that's going to come in when we're talking about our tips and tricks, I'm sure. But um, just undistracted phone, no electronics, that blue light, that we people talk about, and the negativity that you see, that all affects the way you sleep and the quality of sleep.
definitely changes your headspace going into sleep. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's on my list of things to hit for sure. The last thing that I want to mention with the snooze button is like, and this is just my way of thinking of it, but if you have like your to-do list or your attack list, whatever you want to call it, but that one thing that you get up and you get after every morning, when you hit snooze, it's telling yourself that you're okay to hit snooze on your dreams, hit snooze on your goals, hit snooze on whatever your main priority is. And I think that's why it's so important the night before or the day before to set that list of priorities. So, Jerrika, you mentioned like you're going to get up, have water, read, meditate. So you've set those priorities. So if you let yourself snooze now, you're telling yourself it's your extra 10 minutes of sleep is a bigger priority than those
Right.
those
My mental health.
those big goals that you set for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. That's a really
Yeah,
cool way to put it.
you put those in place to improve your mental health, to improve your day, and now you're telling yourself that an extra 10 minutes of sleep is more important. Well, w- what I've done with people in the past is encourage them to stop hitting snooze completely and start by doing this a couple days a week. So start if it's really overwhelming for you to start your day with these wins and start waking up early, don't do it every day. Start with a couple days.
Right.
But don't hit that friggin' snooze button because you're going from a deep quality of sleep, alarm goes off, wakes you up into a light while you're awake, then you go back asleep. There's no way you're getting into a good quality of sleep again.
No,
Letting yourself do that for 10 minutes. I mean, I know people that do this 3, 4, 5 times over. They
it's not
set
benefiting you
they
in any
set their
way.
alarm like an hour early because they know they want to hit snooze 6 times.
I've heard this many times.
And that hour of sleep is complete garbage compared to the hour you would have just gotten if you set your alarm an hour later in the first place.
Yeah, because like we're repairing our muscle and our brain during the REM and the deep sleep,
Mm.
right? Not the light. So really, what's the what's the point?
That's actually another great point. So let's talk about that quickly. I mean, we talk about nutrition a lot. We talk about exercise a lot. We've talked about water a little bit and mental and emotional health a little bit, but we haven't hit on sleep too much. And I mean, sleep is a huge part of our recovery. We do a big chunk of our recovery while we're sleeping, like you said. And for fat loss specifically, that requires recovery. You need the recovery for the energy, you need the recovery from your workouts, your body needs to run through all of its cycles and recover fully. If you're depriving your body of sleep, you're essentially cutting your fat loss back from what your body's potential is.
I agree.
I think that's
That's huge.
that in itself is huge. I mean, if you're on this journey, you're listening to this podcast, so you probably have some physical goals, whether it's fat loss, muscle gain, whatever it might be. If you are cutting your sleep short, you are cutting your goals short. So don't even think about adding more exercise or anything else until you start putting some priority on your sleep.
Yep, that's a huge take home for sure, though.
Okay, so let's get into a few pointers then to a few easy things to put into play to make the best possible
Quality of
sleep.
sleep. Okay,
Um, you can start with one if you want. I have a whole whack of them.
perfect. I think the big one I think of is no large meals before bed.
Mm,
Right. If I'm going to go and have a huge steak dinner a half an hour before bed, now my body's trying to digest that when it should be working at getting to sleep. So now I'm not falling asleep as quickly. I'm not getting into a deep sleep because it's doing something else. So I would always suggest giving yourself some time to for sure digest whatever meal that you're that you're eating before you get to lay down.
I know myself, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners can relate to this, but eating that big meal right before bed, like I get hot. I
Yes, that's a
sweat.
big one. Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
eat before bed and it's a big meal, I'm boiling all night. So that's
It's
gonna keep me
working.
awake. Yeah, your body
double
turns
time,
into
right?
a little
Yeah.
furnace, right?
Yeah.
That's great. That's on my list for sure of pointers. Okay, so then I'll say caffeine. So that's
Okay.
another big one. So caffeine's really interesting. It's a drug, obviously, and it's one that we're almost all addicted to. I know I am. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I think most people drink caffeine. They're addicted to it, and if you're not, you're probably a little bit crazy. Whenever people are like, "Yeah, I don't drink any caffeine," I'm like,
How do you live?
how do you do your day? Like, how
Like
does your day work?
this is how I
Um,
wake up at 5 every day is caffeine.
no, but what's really interesting about caffeine is its half-life is around 5 hours for most people. And that's not everybody, but for most people. So what that means is even 5 hours after drinking your caffeine, you still have half of that in you. Um,
Right.
if you're one of those people drinking coffee after dinner, it's absolutely affecting your sleep quality. And I used to be one of these people. I would drink coffee all day till the time I went to bed, fall asleep, no problem, lights out. Like I
Yep.
could be like drinking a coffee, falling asleep. uh, it is affecting your sleep quality. Whether or
Right.
not it affects your sleep quantity, it is affecting how deep of a sleep you're getting into and how quickly you're falling into that sleep. So I think that's really important to differentiate, because a lot of people listening to this will say, well, I can eat and go to bed. I can drink coffee and go to bed. It doesn't mean you're getting the same quality of sleep.
Exactly. And I think when it comes to like, well, coach, when's my cutoff time? Like, just give me a time. What I honestly think that's trial and error for everyone.
Totally.
Like 2 o'clock might be best for me, where 4 o'clock might be best for you. You know what I mean? So some people are as early. Honestly, I know a few people who cannot have caffeine after like 11 or 12 because then they're
Yeah.
not sleeping.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a trial and error. You have to figure out what works for you.
And treat it the same way that we treat all of our goals. Like water is the first one that comes to mind, but when you have a, say your water goal is like 3 liters a day, but right now you're drinking a cup, well, you're not going to start drinking 3 liters tomorrow, because you're going to spend the whole day in the bathroom and it's going to be really hard to adjust to. Treat your caffeine the same. So if your goal is to eventually get to like, I just picked 10 hours before bed, but it doesn't have to be 10 hours before bed. Like Jerrika mentioned, it's going to be a little different for each person. But if your goal is to eventually get 10 hours before bed, and right now you're like 3 hours before bed, then don't try to get 10, try to get 4.
Right.
Work on making what you're
Caffeine.
doing currently a little bit better.
Yeah.
And
The
then
all or nothing mentality we talk about.
yeah, and pay attention to your sleep. Like if sleep is a big issue for you, journal it. How am I feeling today? How long did I sleep? When did I have caffeine? When did I eat? All of these kind of things, right? Start putting your magic formula together.
Yep. And
Um,
I just want to touch on something you quickly said, water. You were talking about an example, but I think that's another tip we should throw in there is when did you last, like, what was your last large consumption of water? Because some people drink water right up until they go to bed, and now they're peeing all night. They're getting up, going to the washroom, and that's obviously affecting your quality of sleep. So using that in mind, maybe starting your water or drinking more in the morning.
yeah.
You and I both do this, and we've mentioned this a few times. The first thing we do in the morning is chug some. Well, I don't even chug, but I drink a lot of water so
Hmm.
that my goals are going to be met significantly earlier, so that I'm not peeing at night.
Yeah, and I think nighttime should be the longest stretch of time that you go without water. So if like, yeah, there shouldn't be a time during the day that you're going 7 hours without having
No.
some water usually. So I think it is important to drink water when you first wake up, and probably drink a little bit of water before bed. But learn and listen to your body. Like if you can't have 250 mils before bed, then don't, because it's not worth it if it's going to keep you up all night going to the
Right.
washroom.
Yeah.
Um, I've got a bunch, but if you have another one you want to throw in,
You can keep going.
okay. So the next one that I know a lot of people do, especially a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of small business owners, is working late at night.
Hmm.
Um, it gets your mind racing, gets your mind really, really active, a lot of things on your mind, and then you're not able to, same thing, get into, you may still get the quantity of sleep, but it will affect the quality of sleep. For some people, you won't even get the quantity because your mind's racing so fast and so hard that it doesn't allow you to get into that deep sleep. So I think this really comes down to priorities, though. Like we talked about it, we mentioned it early on in this episode. So maybe your first priority is getting some of that work done early in the morning. So for me, I've got a 3-year-old at home. I know he's going to take up a lot of my day, and I want to be able to spend that time with him. So I wake up at 5:30 a.m. so that I can get a good chunk of my work done before he wakes up in the morning, right? I'll put in an hour and a half before he wakes up in the morning. Since I've started doing that, this has been about a year, I'd say now that I've been doing this, I haven't had to most nights work until I go to bed. Sure, there's going to be occasional nights where stuff comes up and you have to. But think about these like speed limits on a road. You should follow it. Most of the time, you're going to follow it pretty closely. If you go over, you might get a ticket, but you're not going to go to jail, right? Like,
Right.
so set these guidelines for yourself, not to be perfect, but to actually guide you and to try to stick to it. If you are one of those people working really late at night, try to find how you can shift your schedule around so that you don't need to be using that much brain power right before bed.
I agree. I like that one.
And I think that really nicely rolls into what you mentioned earlier, the technology.
Right.
So whatever we are doing before bed, we want it to be part of our winding down routine. So do you have like a kind of wind down routine that you follow most nights?
I do. I find that I start with kind of stopping with my water is the first step. Doing all, like, I drink a tea, so I have my tea at night, and that's part of my wind down routine. I go electronic free. Well, I try to. If I am working, I'll try to put the right light on my computer and the blue light glasses. Does it help? I don't know necessarily, but
Sure. I think
it's important to try. If I'm not, then I'm technology free. I'm really struggling, so I do 15 minutes, and that's my bare ass minimum right now, and we've talked about that. So what's realistic for me is 15 minutes before bed, no phones, no computer. I'm working on 30 minutes. So that's my new bedtime routine.
Cool. So
sometimes I'll do a stretch as well.
At night?
Yeah.
I've been trying to start my day with it because, circling back to, like I mentioned, I won't put my workout first thing in the morning because I know I'll make time for the workout. Stretching is something that I will often push aside. So that's why I start with 5 minutes of mobility.
Yep.
And sometimes 10 minutes, depends if I'm tight or if I feel like I really need it, but it's just like, okay, you need to get in at least 5 minutes. So similar to you, I have a very set sleep pattern. I try to do 10:30 to 5:30 every day, 7 hours. I really try to stay in tune with my body, though. I know some days I do need 8 hours.
Yeah.
So I won't get to bed before 10:30 because I'm very scheduled in my day, right from the time I wake up to what happens all day to the time I go to bed. So I often cannot work it out to go to bed earlier than that. And I think my body works well off always going to bed at 10:30, but then I'll just push my morning an hour later and forego that hour of work, which will definitely set my day off a little differently. It won't feel like as great of a day, but some days I need 8 hours of sleep, and I think that has to win out occasionally for me. That's still a work in progress. I know eventually I'll be able to change things around so that I'm consistently getting 8s, and I think that'll be a big difference. But what I'll do before bed for the technology is I set what I call a reverse alarm. So at 10:30 I go to bed. At 9:30 my reverse alarm goes off, and that tells me that it's time to start my wind down. So that's like, okay, you should be off technology now. Like you said, that doesn't happen every night, but you should be, and it makes you consciously aware of that. And I'll actually leave myself tasks to complete that are tech-free tasks. So rather than, a lot of people will like eat dinner, do dishes, tidy up the house, watch TV till bed. I'll switch that order around. So like we'll eat dinner, I'll leave the dishes. And it's like, you want to watch TV? Let's watch TV now at like 6:30, whatever it is, for a little bit. And then when that reverse alarm goes off, now I'm trying to do an hour tech free. So it's like, okay, now I could do the dishes. Now I could tidy up. Now I could
That's
fold
awesome.
laundry, shower, brush my teeth, read a book until I fall asleep. And that's just a small change I've made over the last years, is leaving those tech free tasks late at night. And I like it because it not only, if you don't have something to preoccupy you, you sit there and you're like, meh, I could scroll Instagram for a bit tonight. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Um,
That's a really great idea. I'm definitely going to try and implement that.
yeah. I've mentioned that to a lot of people, and some of this stuff works for you, and some of it doesn't, right? Like
Yes,
it
exactly.
really does have to come down to trial and error. What works well for me? What do I feel good doing? If it feels good, keep doing it. But these things that Jerrika and I are mentioning aren't necessarily going to work for everybody, and that's okay.
Awesome.
I think that was the last one. The last thing that I would mention, though, is that our bodies really do crave routine. So it's it's unlikely, if your sleep schedule is a complete disaster right now, that you're all of a sudden going to make it the exact same every night. But the closer we can get it to the same, the better. So for me, 10:30 to 5:30 is my
Yeah.
normal. 7 days a week, that's my normal. Those days where like things come up and you're with friends, or like there's a
Yeah.
special event, doesn't mean you cannot do that, but the closer you can make every day to that normal, the better. So a lot of people will say to me like, what about the weekend? Like I'm not waking up at 5:30 on the weekend. Well, that's fine, but don't wake up at like 11 on the weekends.
Exactly. I mentioned this before, and I never can think of the name of the study, but the results were that the people going to bed roughly around the same time, waking at the same time, even if they were only getting, 5-6 hours of sleep, but they were always getting that 5-6 hours within the same range, like time frame,
Yep.
had better, I think it was recovery. I don't really remember what they were testing, but anyways, better results than the people who were just getting 6 hours, but sporadically.
All over the place.
Yeah. So that the consistency, that craving routine that you're talking about, it's definitely key for sure. And that's something that I've definitely made priority.
I actually noticed that a lot. So my 10:30 to 5:30 is my normal. Some days I get up earlier and I'm crushed. Some days I allow myself that extra hour of sleep,
Hmm.
and I don't feel as great. The one thing that I think is important to note, because I harped on the snooze button earlier, is I don't ever just allow myself that extra hour of sleep in the morning. I'll never, ever, ever
No,
do that. I'll never
that's
snooze.
planned.
Yeah, it is always planned. So before anybody
Yes.
comes after me for that, it'll be like the day before. I'll be like, okay, I've
I
planned
know I
this so I
need
don't
this.
have work in the morning. I will not hit that freaking snooze button. So that's not me.
I agree.
I think we've covered
Yeah.
most of the main sleep points. Anyways, I guess a couple last little ones is control your sleep environment. So get the TV out of your bedroom. Don't have a TV in there. Try
Cooler
to
room.
keep your tech away from your bed. Yeah, cooler room for sure.
Yeah.
That's been shown and proven. A nice dark room. If you need to wear a sleep mask,
Yes.
wear a sleep
Yes.
mask, or get better blinds, whatever that has to be. But like if your partner's like watching TV or watching their phone in bed, like that's also affecting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
That's
we've
lots.
covered
Yeah.
all of the main ones though.
Yep. Lots of them.
Cool. Do you have a tip for us today?
Oh yes, my kitchen tip. Let's make it pretty simple to this week. I want to try and convince everyone how awesome powdered peanut butter is. If you're a peanut butter freak like me, to the point where probably I could devote a fraction, probably a quarter of my calories just to peanut butter easily. This has really saved my life in terms of just having the flavor, but also cutting back on the high calorie that normal peanut butter is. So I put it in like smoothies. I make, because you can change the consistency of it. So you can add a little bit of water if you want it to be thicker, and you can add a lot if you want it to be more like runny. So I'll actually make it like dips, or trying to think, like almost syrups, like I'll drizzle it over my protein pancakes. Do you use it?
Yeah, I use it all the time. I love it. So the thing that I think is really cool about powdered peanut butter is it's lower calorie and higher protein per calorie. So it is a great trade-off. Actually, in our program, I don't even have people count it for the most part because it's like such an easy trade-off that I don't even think it's worth counting. What I wanted to ask you, somebody was asking me about it the other day, and I only really use it in my smoothies. Do people actually turn it into peanut butter? Like, do you like mix water and then spread it on things?
I have, yeah. I usually use it, make it like a dip. So I'll do like a protein mixed with powdered peanut butter, a little bit of water or whatever consistency you want. Sometimes I actually use egg whites, and I'll mix it up, and it makes like a caramelly textured dip. And I'll dip my eggs in it, or my eggs, my apples.
It's
my
not
apples in it, or
it doesn't
bananas.
get thick though, right? Like
No.
you can't put it on like a piece of toast without a
Oh
toast.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah, you
really?
could. You just have to put less water. You can dictate the consistency of it. Yeah.
I feel like there's a whole new world out there waiting for me.
I know. That's what I'm talking about.
Cool. Thanks for that tip.
Awesome.
Thanks guys for listening. We appreciate you being here. All of the comments and feedback has been great to hear from you guys. So keep that coming. I love getting messages after episodes, just hearing that you listened to it or what you really liked from the episode or what you'd love to hear next. That all helps and drives us as we continue to do this for you guys. If you know anybody that you think might benefit from hearing this episode, please share it with them as we continue to grow our audience. That means an awful lot whenever you guys share these episodes. So thank you all for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode every Tuesday morning. Thanks again.